Hey everyone, this is Martin, and I ran across a video the other day that I wanted to share some thoughts on it with you, and it has to do with the 5 most common reasons why people are prepping and what they're prepping for when the stuff hits the fan scenario. And before we get started on that, the stuff hits the fan, that's my attempt at keeping this video G and PG rated. Okay, but before I get started on that, I would like to have you go down and click the subscribe button and the notification bell on the channel here and keep up with it a little bit. We've got, we started about 3 years ago, we started kind of our back to the land journey ourselves, and a lot of that was prompted by something that we experienced, and it was the beginning of the 2020 year when the COVID thing happened, and I never would have believed up until that time that we were so vulnerable to just the whim of the government, I guess, to just simply shut our businesses down. And we had several businesses that we had operating, and we went into a full-blown survival mode, just trying to keep our businesses alive during that time. And like I say, I never would have believed that it would have been possible for the government just to come wave their magic wand and shut everything down. And I found out that that wasn't the case. And so shortly after that, we decided, my wife and I decided that we need to be less vulnerable. And so we decided on a pathway to take us to more of a self-sufficient type of a life. And if you know me personally, or if you've watched any of the videos that I've done on this subject, you would know that I'm not a doomsday apocalyptic type of a prepper that believes that that everything is just going to be a total meltdown. Although it could be, okay? So I'm not saying that it's not. I'm just saying I've never been that way. And but I've never been the way that I could have believed the government could have just simply shut down our businesses either until it actually happened. So it got me to thinking a lot more seriously about, what is the future and where are things going. And I came to decide that it was really time to start focusing a little bit on preventative measures for that and becoming more self-sufficient. And so that's what we did. That's part of why I'm down on kind of the very back part of our property right now, way back in the woods. And I hope I don't melt my camera. Better check that out. I think we're okay. So I was watching a video on, I believe it was the Laura Ingraham show, and she was interviewing a gentleman by the name of Drew Miller, who organizes survival training and prepping compounds, several of them around the United States, I guess, and was asking him what the main threat was. And he had talked about the 5, when people were interviewed overall, the 5 main things that people were most concerned with.
Well, preppers who are watching for threats, paying attention to them, were recently surveyed, as published in the Washington Examiner, and they identified 5 of the top threats. Number 1 was a grid down. Our electric grid is very vulnerable.
And the first one was simply a grid down type of situation where the electrical grid goes down, and with that along goes with water and your municipal water anyway, and so that was the main one. And that was one of the things that when we came down to this property, we decided that we wanted to kind of make ourselves immune from, was relying on the grid. And we do have a grid connection way up at our cabin. And but we also have a solar power plant that we can bypass the entire grid thing if we decide to. And we've had the grid power go down maybe 3 times since we've been here, and haven't noticed any kind of disruption of services because of the solar plant that we have. And so, and I can see that one as being a very legitimate reason. He brought up a thing about, not only do in bigger urban areas, not only do you lose the electricity, but you also lose the municipal water because it's all run on electricity. So that could be very devastating in a bigger urban area, large city. And so that I can really see, and that's one of the things that we've just really focused on trying to get a handle on here is being able to have power enough to run the things that we have to run in case the grid does go down. Now, there's also been he discusses a little bit about the EMP thing, which I am not real familiar. I mean, I understand that it's I guess it's electromagnetic pulse type of an event that will kind of fry electronics and all of that. So, I mean, anybody that has more information on that, feel free to put an explanation down in the comments below, so I and other people can understand that a little bit better.
Number 2 is a bioengineered virus or bio attack that could cause a really deadly pandemic. Not COVID, but H5N1, 60% lethal type pandemic.
So the second one that he talks about is a bioengineered virus, which I mean, we've already experienced that too. That's something that I wouldn't have necessarily given a lot of thought to prior to the COVID pandemic, and but knowing what we know now, it's like, yeah, I can see reasons why people would want to prepare themselves to guard against that sort of a thing. And again, it's one of those things that if you believe kind of largely like I did that those were naturally occurring things, and then you come to find out that they're most of them seem to be human engineered, and it's like, how do you live with in a world where that sort of thing is going on without taking some kind of measures to guard yourself against that? So that's legitimate too.
The other one was a civil war next year. A lot of people are concerned that we are so divided as a nation that we could have a civil war next year. Ray Dalio.
As he talks about the whole idea of a American Civil War, that's one that I'm not quite ready to buy in on. I would like to think, now maybe this is me being naive, okay, but I would like to think that before we as Americans would ever allow things to degrade to the point where we're going to engage in a civil war on our soil again, that we would be smart enough and have the vision enough to not go there. But at the same time, I thought we wouldn't ever reach a point where a government could just snap their fingers and shut our businesses down. And along with the grid down thing, it's we're already experiencing, we get notifications every summer about, and actually sometimes in the winter too, that the power companies may be experiencing rolling blackouts, or they may have not enough power to serve the need of the area, and just be expecting that. So civil war, gosh, I wouldn't think so, but I guess anything can be possible. So that one is one that would bother me. That I would say that I'm going to be less than 5% of the probability of that. But at the same time, it's one of the top 5 that people are concerned about.
Fourth one was an economic collapse that could lead to a loss of law and order.
Regarding the economic collapse or the economic crash, now that is something that I do. I buy into that almost 100%. Not as a total global meltdown of the economy, although again that's possible, but just we've already experienced. We're right in the middle of an economic recession right now that has put almost everybody that I know into difficulties at just being able to put gas in their cars, put groceries on the table, keep their homes heated and cooled. And so we're already experiencing that. And if you think about it, we've acclimated to that as it's happened over the last 3 years. But it comes down to, if you went back 3 years and went from there and skipped over to where we are now, that would be almost a calamity, with interest rates being what they are and all of that. So it's like, okay, that may not be an apocalyptic meltdown of the economy, but when you stop to think about how badly it's affected all of us, to me that's a sign that we started our journey of self-sufficiency about 3 years ago, and where we're at now, it's like, I'm glad we did, because, you know, right now we're dealing with the consequences of economy going into the tank. And so if for no other reason, I think that's a good reason to become more self-sufficient and prepare for that kind of a thing in advance as much as you can. But now that we're right in the middle of it, it's like, when's the best time to plant a tree? 20 years ago. When's the second best? Today. You know, if you haven't started that journey of self-sufficiency, then, I mean, you're experiencing what it's like to be not prepared for that. And fortunately, like I say, we started this thing long enough ago before all of this stuff started going haywire. And so we're not feeling the effects of it as much as we would have been had we not done any of that preparation for that.
And then the last one was terrorist attacks because of our largely open borders.
And then the fifth one, the whole issue with terrorist attacks or crime related to kind of largely open borders, that's definitely an issue right now. And it's not like we're seeing that everybody that's coming across the border is a criminal. I mean, I'm not saying that. And it's not like we don't have enough crime the way it is, okay? But with decisions being made the way they are about dealing with criminal activity, and then plus leaving borders wide open, so who knows? I have more trouble getting into the country off of a cruise ship or off an airplane going through an airport. It takes me a passport and identification and searching my stuff and doing scans and all of that just to get back into the country as an American citizen. And, you know, I look at the border and I'm thinking anybody can come across with almost anything. I saw in the news the other day where there was a group that was stopped that had 5 IEDs or improvised explosive devices at the border. And it's like, how do you not prepare for that in good conscience for the safety of your family and your friends and your communities and things like that? So that one is definitely on my radar as a legitimate reason why people would want to become more prepared as well. And so, you know, as I went through that video, and I'll put a link to that video down below in the description down there so you can see the whole thing. It's only about 10 minutes long. And I probably dragged this video out longer than that one was. But just as a regular, ordinary person, trying to survive, doing the best they can, and dealing with all of the crazy things that we have dealt with over the last few years. And it's not just the last 3 years. I mean, it goes farther back than that. But it's just, how can you ignore the fact that things are changing, and they have changed, and they're going to continue to change. And so it's important for us to understand that, you know, not only do you prepare from a self-sufficiency point of view, but for a safety point of view and a disaster point of view, whether it's natural disaster or man-made one. And so take that for what it's worth. Again, I ask you to hit the subscribe button, the notification bell. I'm going to dig into this a little bit farther because it just, you know, I've always resisted that whole doomsday prepping kind of a thought process, but, you know, I can't ignore it anymore. And it's just something that I don't think we can afford to ignore anymore. So all of my friends out there that say, where did you ever get that? It's like, well, I don't know. I've experienced too much of it. As a business owner, you know, I felt like the government declared war on my business and my livelihood by trying to shut everything down with zero consequences to them. All of the consequences fell on my shoulders. So anyway, that's my speech for the day. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed being out here in the backwoods. I may go ahead and try to film a couple of the things around here so you can see kind of what it's like back in here. Okay, when you get far enough back on our place, you end up getting into these really remote and rugged hills and places like that down there, across over there. I love this place. More over here. Got a spring down there with some water in it. Yeah, this is where I'm gonna hide. Keep thinking I'll see a Bigfoot down here, but I haven't so far. Hang with me. Subscribe button, notification bell, and we'll see you next time. If you've enjoyed this video, give it a like and a share, and don't forget to hit the subscribe button down below and the notification bell. See you next time.